I knew this was trouble. In the glens at Chestnut Creek, a name that promises both woodland charm and a urinary tract infection, the only thing urgent is when Brenda's Botox appointment runs late. Brenda is our HOA president. She's a woman forged in the fires of beige paint swatches and fueled by the unadulterated, meth-like joy of writing violation notices. She doesn't walk. She patrols, clipboard in hand, her gray-blonde helmet of hair impervious to wind, her K-car-sized SUV idling 24/7 in what I can only assume is a blatant, one-woman assault on the ozone layer. I work from home. Work, in this case, is a generous term for what I do, which is consulting. This mostly involves me sitting in my home office, staring at a spreadsheet, and wondering if I could time a coffee pot refill perfectly with the thwack of Brenda's clipboard slapping a new violation on someone's door. I clicked the email. The spreadsheet could wait. This was my real job. Dear residents of the Glens at Chestnut Creek, after careful consideration and a review of community feedback regarding visual clutter, the board has voted to approve Bylaw Amendment 74C. To preserve community harmony and aesthetic integrity, all yard signage of a political nature, including candidate, party, or issue-based signs, is henceforth prohibited. I read it again. Aesthetic integrity. That's what they call it when your soul has been replaced by a Sherwin-Williams color palette. I knew exactly what this was about. This was about the Great Sign War of 2024. It started, as all great wars do, with a seemingly noble cause. My neighbor Bob, a good guy, if a little too enthusiastic about kale, put up a small, tasteful sign, "Save the Spotted Owl." A week later, Jerry, across the street, who I'm pretty sure marinates his steaks in pure, uncut testosterone, put up a sign that just said, "Spotted owls taste like chicken," with a picture of a cartoon owl on a grill. Bob countered with, "Meat is murder." Jerry responded with, "My meat has a first name. It's Oscar." This went on for a month. The signs got bigger, the accusations more personal. It culminated in Bob putting up a 20-foot inflatable owl and Jerry aiming a high-intensity spotlight at it, 24/7, while blasting "Who Let the Dogs Out" on a loop. Brenda's solution, as always, was not to mediate, not to find common ground, but to drop a small, tactical, beige-colored nuke on the entire concept of having an opinion in public. Hence, 74C. I yelled into the next room, where my wife, Sarah, was on a conference call, doing what I like to call an actual job that contributes to society. "Hey, honey, did you know our aesthetic integrity is at risk?" I heard a muffled, "I'm in a meeting, Frank." "It's important," I yelled back. "Brenda has banned opinions." The door to the office flew open. Sarah stood there, headset half off, her face a perfect mask of, "I married this man on purpose." "What? New bylaw. No more political signs. Ever. Period. End of story." Sarah's shoulders slumped, but in a relieved way. "Oh, thank God." "What? Thank God? This is tyranny, Sarah. This is the slow, beige creep of fascism." "Is this about the beige?" she hissed, closing the door. "Did she say we have to paint the mailbox again? I swear to God, Frank, if I have to look at another beige swatch, I am moving to a yurt. I mean it. A canvas-sided, off-the-grid yurt." "No, it's better. Or worse. It's the principle, Sarah. We are now officially banned from having opinions. On our lawns, anyway." "Frank, you don't have opinions. Your only strongly held belief is that the designated hitter rule is an abomination. Who are you, the new Thomas Paine? That's not the point, I grumbled, sinking back into my chair. She was right, of course. I'm not political. The last time I voted, it was because they were handing out "I voted" stickers that looked like little tacos. I really hate being told what to do, especially by Brenda. Sarah sighed, that deep, long-suffering sigh that pays our mortgage. Okay, so what are you going to do? Write a strongly worded letter? I don't know, I said. I'm thinking. Oh no, don't do that. She put her headset back on. Please, Frank, don't. We just paid for the new gutters. Just let it go. She closed the door. Let it go. Let it go. I sat there for an hour. I fumed. I stewed. I rearranged the icons on my desktop. I stared out the window at my lawn. My perfectly manicured, soon-to-be compulsorily neutral lawn. My patch of American soil where freedom of speech had just been aesthetically integritied to death. My rage wasn't a hot, burning rage. It was a cold, petty, overeducated rage. The kind of rage that has a thesaurus and too much free time. I started scrolling through the internet, idly, looking for, I don't know, a loophole, a spark. And then I saw it. It was a meme, a classic, a relic from the last election cycle, but one that, like a fine wine, only got better with age. It was a picture of the Earth, as seen from space, and hurtling toward it, a massive, fiery, extinction-level asteroid. The caption read, "Giant Meteor 2028. Just end it already." I stopped scrolling. I looked at the picture. I looked at the bylaw, printed out on my desk. Political nature candidate, party, or issue-based. A slow smile spread across my face. The kind of smile a man gets right before he does something monumentally, beautifully stupid. Is astrophysics political? Is an existential, non-terrestrial, equal opportunity event an issue? Is the meteor a candidate? I mean, it's got a platform. A very impactful platform. It's promising to fix everything. The economy, climate change, my weird neighbor's barking dog, Brenda's beige-based reign of terror. All of it. In one glorious, non-partisan thump. I pulled up a custom printing website. "Honey!" I yelled, pulling my credit card from my wallet. "I'm on my call. Quick question. Is astrophysics a party?" I heard a sound from the other room. A sound somewhere between a sigh and a scream. "What did you just buy, Frank?" I typed in the credit card number. Item. Custom yard sign. Size 18x24. Material. Coroplast 4mm. Stakes H stakes 15. Design uploaded. Black background. White text, Giant Meteor 2028. Underneath, in smaller, more urgent letters, it's coming. Quantity. I looked at the one. It seemed lonely, insufficient. It was a protest, sure, but was it art? I deleted the one and typed in 50. "Oh, nothing, honey," I called back, clicking Confirm Order. "Just a non-partisan solution, an equal opportunity candidate. I'm just getting into local cosmology." The box arrived 3 days later. It was massive. A flat, cardboard monolith delivered by a FedEx guy who looked like he'd been in a fistfight with a bear and lost. He dropped it on my porch with a thud that shook the welcome mat. He rang the bell, and I opened the door. He just looked at me, looked at the box, and then back at me, wiping sweat from his forehead. You running for something?" he panted. "You could say that," I said, trying to look serious. "It's a big platform. We're expecting a huge impact." The guy just nodded, too tired to process the pun. "Yeah, well, good luck with your whatever this is." He handed me the clipboard, I signed, and he limped back to his truck, a broken man. I dragged the box into the garage. It was like wrestling a sedated rhinoceros. I waited until Sarah left to go to what she called the real gym, not the dusty treadmill I had in the basement. I cut the box open. It was beautiful. 50 identical signs, black as the void, with crisp white lettering. Giant Meteor 2028. 50 H-stakes, all thwacking together as I pulled them out. I felt like a suburban ninja if ninjas wore New Balance sneakers and had a mild gluten sensitivity. I spent the next hour assembling them, the click of the coroplast sliding onto the metal stakes. Click, click, click. It was the sound of democracy or nihilism. I get the two confused. The mission, I decided, would be at 2 a.m. Operation Impending Doom. That night, I pretended to go to sleep. I read a boring article about the history of the spork until I heard Sarah's breathing even out. Then I waited another 30 minutes, just in case. I slid out of bed. I put on my covert ops gear. Black sweatpants, a black hoodie, and my aforementioned New Balance sneakers, which, to be fair, are a soft, non-threatening gray. I crept into the garage and loaded my arms with the signs. The suburbs at 2 a.m. are a special kind of creepy. It's too quiet. The silence is so loud it feels like it's judging you. Every cricket chirp sounds like an accusation. Every swing of a metal stake going into the damp lawn sounded like a gunshot. Swing. One by the mailbox. "That one's for the mailman," I whispered to myself. "He gets it. He knows the end is nigh." Swing. One right on the property line with Bob, the owl guy. He'll like this. He's an end times guy, just a different flavor. Swing, swing, swing. A nice little cluster by the sidewalk for the dog walkers. I worked my way around the yard, a madman planting his harvest of existential dread. I felt alive. I felt purposeful. This was, without question, the stupidest, most brilliant thing I had ever done. Finally, I got to the front flower bed, the one Brenda has to walk past on her 6 a.m. clipboard patrol. I didn't plant one sign, or two. I planted 10. 10 of them, in a perfect, beautiful grid, like a tiny, terrifying cemetery for aesthetic integrity. Swing, 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 swing. I was out of breath. I was covered in sweat and mulch. I crept back behind a large ornamental shrub, which, I noted with grim satisfaction, was on Brenda's unapproved shrubbery list, and I stepped back to admire my work. The moonlight glinted off 50 identical signs, 50 promises of total, beautiful, equal opportunity oblivion. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I crept back inside, washed the dirt off my hands, and slid into bed. I slept the sleep of the just. I woke up at 7 a.m. to the sound of a small, localized earthquake. Bzz, bzz, bzz. It was Sarah's phone. It was on her nightstand, and it was vibrating itself into the next dimension. I sat up. "What the hell is that?" Sarah groaned, rolling over and grabbing it. Her eyes, still blurry with sleep, scanned the screen. Then they went wide. Frank! I was already up, pouring a cup of coffee from the machine I'd preset. I walked to the bay window in our living room, sipping the coffee, peering through the blinds. It was glorious. The first jogger, a woman who always wore an unpleasantly high-visibility yellow jacket, had stopped dead. She was staring at the grid of 10 signs. She took a hesitant step, like she thought they might be a new kind of sprinkler. She tripped over the curb. A car slowed down, then stopped. Then another car slowed down and stopped behind it. We had our first meteor-based traffic jam. Bzzz, bzzz. Frank, Sarah said again. Her voice was flat, deadly. Morning, sunshine, I said, not turning around. Coffee's on. Frank, what did you do? Me? I'm just enjoying the view. Looks like a beautiful day. For now, anyway. I have 57 unread text messages, she said, her voice rising in pitch, all in the last 10 minutes. She started reading them aloud, in a robotic, horrified monotone. From Connie, 2 doors down. Is Frank okay? Did he join a death cult? From Bob, the owl guy. This is amazing. Does he have a link for the t-shirt Nabwar Meteorite? From Brenda? What's Brenda's say? I asked, turning around, a huge grin on my face. It's not text, Sarah said, holding up the phone. It's just the angry face emoji, 32 times, and a picture of our lawn, and a screenshot of Bylaw 74C, and I think a link to the Wikipedia page for public nuisance. And right on cue, I heard it. The screech. It's a sound I know well. It's the sound of Brenda's suburban assault vehicle, a Chevy Suburban that has never, I guarantee, seen a speck of mud, taking a corner too fast. I looked out the window. The SUV slammed to a halt at the end of my driveway, parallel to the mailbox sign. The door flew open. Brenda emerged. She was in her full power walking gear, pink visor, matching Lululemon jacket, and in her hand, the clipboard. She didn't knock. She didn't ring the doorbell. She hammered on the door. Wham! 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 Frank, open this door! I know you're in there, Frank! Sarah looked at me, her eyes pleading. Frank, no, don't. Just, I'll tell her you're sick. You're consulting. I just smiled. I walked to the door, my coffee mug in hand, and pulled it open. Brenda, I said, with all the cheerful, unbothered energy I could muster. Lovely day. For now anyway. You seem stressed. Is it the impending doom? It's the impending doom, isn't it? She was vibrating. Her face was a shade of puce that I'm pretty sure is not on the approved HOA color wheel. What are these? She sputtered, gesturing wildly at the lawn, the clipboard shaking in her hand. Oh, you like them? I was going for a minimalist, end-of-all-things kind of vibe. You think it works with the shrubbery? You take them down, she shrieked. You take them down. Now, they are political. That was the word, the magic word. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I held up my free hand, feigning shock. Political? Brenda, I'm offended. Deeply. This is an existential awareness campaign. It's a candidate, she stammered, pointing a trembling finger at one of the signs. It says 2028. That's an election year, I gasped, putting my hand over my heart. Brenda, shame on you. It's also a potential impact year. I'm just citing astronomical data. This is a public service announcement. Are you anti-science, Brenda? Is that what the HOA stands for now? Anti-science? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She just gurgled. I mean, think about it, I continued, warming up now. This is the great equalizer. The meteor doesn't care about your 401k. It doesn't care about the designated hitter rule. It doesn't even care, I leaned in conspiratorially, about beige mailboxes. It's the ultimate non-partisan, non-terrestrial, equal opportunity event. I'm just promoting awareness. Brenda finally found her voice. It was a high-pitched squeal. You'll be hearing from the board. This is a violation. This is a mockery. She fumbled for her phone, trying to take a picture, but her hands were shaking too hard. The clipboard clattered to the porch. Oh, make sure you get my good side, I called after her, as she scrambled to retrieve it. The side that's keenly aware of our fragile place in this vast, unforgiving cosmos. And tell the board the meteor is looking forward to meeting them. She practically threw herself into her SUV, slammed the door, and laid on the horn as she reversed out of my driveway, almost taking out Bob's spotted owl memorial, a small, tasteful statue he'd put up after the inflatables were banned. I stood in the doorway, sipping my coffee. Behind me, I heard a small, choked sound. I turned around. Sarah was leaning against the wall, her hand over her mouth. She was laughing so hard she was crying. You're an idiot, she sputtered. Yeah, I said, grinning. But I'm an aware idiot. Big difference. The next phase of my campaign/existential crisis began at 8 a.m. the next morning. A beat-up, rust-colored Ford F-150, which looked like it had personally lost a war with a can opener, pulled up to the curb. This was Gus and Sal. They were here to build a deck. I'd been on their waiting list for 6 months. The deck was Sarah's please God just finish one project compromise for me not trying to build a fire pit/pizza oven/sauna combination I'd seen on a questionable YouTube channel. Gus got out of the driver's side. He was a barrel-chested man who looked like he'd been born wearing a tool belt. Sal, the passenger, was thin, wiry, and looked like he was vibrating on a frequency only he and several species of small dogs could hear. They got out, tools in hand, walked up my driveway, and just stopped. They stood there, side by side, for a full 30 seconds, surveying the sea of black signs. The silence was profound. Finally, Gus, chewing on a toothpick that looked like a small log, turned to me as I opened the door. So, he said, his voice a low rumble. You're a space guy? You could say that, I said, leaning against the door jamb. I'm just keeping my options open. You guys want coffee? Sal's head twitched. My cousin's into this stuff. Thinks the moon is hollow, and that lizard people run the post office. You think the moon is hollow, Frank? I think it's irrelevant, Sal, I said, walking back to the kitchen to grab the pot. When the big one gets here, hollow, solid, we're all just dust. And the mail's gonna be late anyway. Cream and sugar? Black, they both said in unison. For the next 2 hours, they became my first focus group. As they unloaded lumber and snapped chalk lines, they'd yell out commentary. You know, Frank, Gus called out, as the bzzz of a circular saw ripped through the morning air. I'm looking at these signs. I've been looking at them. And I like the message. It's clean. It's simple. Thanks, Gus. I was going for elegant finality. But, he continued, the branding is a little, one note. You got 50 signs, and they all say the same thing. Sal chimed in, hammering a post. He's right. You gotta diversify the portfolio, Frank. You thought about Giant. Meteor 2028. It's got what planets crave. That's not bad, Sal. A little derivative, but not bad. Or, Gus added, how about Giant Meteor 2028? We're all gonna be equally vaporized? I like it, Sal said. Or, vote Meteor. You're gonna vote for a disaster. Anyway, might as well make it a big one. You guys, I said, walking out with a fresh pitcher of lemonade, are naturals. You're officially my new campaign team. You're my impact advisors. Gus took a glass. I'll be honest, Frank. I was on the fence, but this is the most sense-making platform I've heard in years. My back's been killing me. See? I said. The meteor feels your pain. The happy bubble of my new political think tank was burst at approximately 10:30 a.m. That's when the squad car pulled up. Not Brenda's SUV. An actual, bona fide, lights on the top, to serve and protect squad car. Brenda, predictably, had escalated. She'd gone nuclear. She'd called the cops. Gus and Sal immediately stopped working and started watching, with the kind of intense interest usually reserved for a really good drywall installation. 2 officers got out. One was older, with a mustache that had seen things, and a gut that suggested a deep, personal relationship with donuts. He looked tired. The kind of tired you can't fix with sleep. The other was a kid. He couldn't have been more than 22, with a buzz-cut, wrap-around sunglasses and a chin-strap beard that was, I'm sorry, just a terrible life choice. The tired one was Officer Taggart. The kid was Officer Blevins. I knew this because their name tags were visible from space. Blevins, all business, stomped up the driveway, his hand hovering near his belt. Taggart followed behind, moving with all the urgency of a glacier. Taggart saw the lawn. He saw the 50 signs. He saw Gus and Sal watching from the half-built deck. And he let out a long, slow, mournful sigh. It was the sigh of a man who has seen the absolute, rock-bottom, stupidest things humanity has to offer, and then woke up the next day to find a new rock bottom. Blevins, however, was in his element. This was action. "Sir," Blevins said, stopping 3 feet from me, adopting a power stance. "We've received a complaint, multiple complaints actually, about a disturbance and unauthorized political signage." "Officer," I said, putting on my most concerned, law-abiding citizen face, "I'm so glad you're here. This is an issue of public safety. People need to be aware. This is a rapidly approaching event." Blevins, bless his heart, actually pulled out his little notepad. "Sir, the complaint states," he flipped a page, "that you are campaigning for a Mr. Meteor?" "It's gender-neutral, officer," I said gravely. "And it's not a meteor, it's the meteor. And it's not a campaign, it's a public service announcement. I've looked through the bylaws. Show me the law that says I can't be enthusiastic about astrophysics. Show me the law that says I can't prepare my community for the inevitable." Blevins just stared at me. His sunglasses made it impossible to see his eyes, but I could feel the blankness. "Sir, are you on any medication?" "Just a daily vitamin, officer. And coffee. Lots and lots of coffee." "Sir, these signs are inciting fear. That's what the complainant said." "Inciting fear?" "Officer, I'm reducing anxiety by offering a clean slate, a total reset. I'm a hope merchant, officer, a purveyor of cosmic finality." From the deck, I heard Gus mutter to Sal, "Purveyor of cosmic finality. That's a good one. Write that down." This was going nowhere. Blevins was a wall of muscle and procedure. But then Officer Taggart, who had been silently observing this whole exchange, started to shake. It was subtle at first. A little tremor in his mustache, then his shoulders. He was trying to suppress a laugh, and he was failing. Miserably. He finally stepped in, putting a heavy hand on his partner's shoulder. "Blevins," he said, his voice straining. Go check the air in the tires. On the car. Do it now." Blevins looked confused. "The tires? Sir, we just—" "That's an order, Blevins. It's a safety protocol," Taggart barked. Blevins, clearly unhappy about being pulled from the front lines of the sign war, stomped back to the cruiser. Taggart waited until the rookie was out of earshot. Then he turned to me. He took off his hat and wiped his forehead. The laughter was gone, replaced by that bone-deep weariness. "Frank, right?" he said. "All day, officer." "Look, Frank, I'm Taggart. I've been on this beat for 20 years. You know who lives at 412 Chestnut Glen Creek?" "Brenda," I said. "Brenda," he confirmed, nodding. "Brenda calls us, a lot. Last week, she called us because of a suspiciously ethnic garden gnome. True story. I think that's Bob's. It was a gift from his sister in Tucson." "Doesn't matter," Taggart said, waving his hand. "The week before that, she called, and I'm not kidding, she called to report a car, wait for it, legally parked. It was aesthetically disruptive, her words." He put his hat back on and looked at my lawn. He looked at the 50 signs, one by one. Then he looked back at me, and a small, cracked, beautiful smile appeared under his mustache. "Frank," he said, lowering his voice, "between you and me, this is the best damn call I've been on all year." I felt a surge of something. Pride. Victory. "But," he said, raising a finger, "here's the thing. Technically, you're not breaking any laws. There's no disorderly conduct. You're not inciting a riot. At least not one I can arrest you for. So you're not going to cite me for inciting an existential crisis?" "Nah, he shuddered. "That's an HOA thing. That's civil. Which means, unfortunately," he looked over at Brenda's house, "that's her territory. We're out. This is a civil dispute. We can't do anything." "I understand, officer," I said, trying to keep the grin off my face. "Good." He turned to leave, then stopped. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a wadded-up $20 bill. He held it out to me. What's this?" I asked. Taggart looked around, embarrassed. My brother-in-law. He's in a fight with his HOA over Christmas lights in July. He'd find this really hilarious. Can I get one of the signs?" I stared at the 20, my first campaign contribution. "Officer Taggart," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You can have one. On the house, for a fellow freedom fighter." I ran over, pulled the sacred H stake of the sign by the mailbox, and handed it to him. "Giant Meteor 2028, it's coming," he read, a genuine, actual laugh escaping him. "Oh, my wife is going to kill me." He nodded, slid the sign into the back of his cruiser like it was contraband, and got in the driver's seat. Blevins, having declared the tires full of air, sir, got in the passenger side, looking utterly defeated. The cruiser pulled away. I turned back to my house. From her window, across the street, I could see Brenda. She was on the phone. And she was, I am positive, actually exploding. Just a silent, window-rattling, slow-motion, puce-colored explosion. I looked up at my new deck. Gus and Sal were just standing there. Silent. Then, slowly, Gus started to clap. Then Sal joined in. They were giving me a standing ovation. "That," Gus said, wiping a tear from his eye, "was beautiful, man. Purveyor of cosmic finality. Beautiful. The problem with winning a battle against an HOA is that you don't actually win. You just escalate. You just open up a new, dumber, more expensive front in the war. The Taggart intervention bought me about 24 hours of peace. 24 hours of smug, coffee-sipping, deck-watching bliss. Gus and Sal made incredible progress, fueled by my lemonade and their newfound passion for apocalyptic protest decking. They were no longer just contractors. They were my first two disciples. My meteorites. Then, on day 3, the story went suburban viral. Bob's Kid, a 15-year-old girl who communicates exclusively through a series of grunts and TikTok dances, posted a video. It was a 10-second clip filmed from her bedroom window, zoomed in on my lawn. The audio was some terrible, thumping song I didn't recognize. The text on the screen read, "My neighbor is a total legend. He's fighting the HOA Karen with this, LMAO." She'd tagged it. HOA Wars at Meteor Man, a giant meteor 2028. Brenda is a curse word. By noon, it had 1,000 views. By 3 p.m., it had 50,000. Apparently, the algorithm just loves petty suburban warfare. At 4 p.m., a new vehicle showed up. A white van with Channel 5 News, your local leader, on the side. Sarah, who had been enjoying the quiet phase of my protest, was not pleased. She had just pulled into the driveway when the van pulled up behind her. A woman in a blazer that was a shade of electric blue, definitely not HOA approved, and a microphone that looked like a small, furry animal, bounded out, followed by a cameraman who looked just as tired as Officer Taggart. "Sarah!" I yelled from the half-built deck. "We're famous!" "Frank," she said, walking toward me, her keys jangling in her fist. "There is a news van in our driveway. Our driveway, Frank, where our cars go. Connie is already texting me, asking if we're being raided by the feds. Fix this." "Fix it? Honey, this is the media. This is how we get the message out. Gus, Sal, look alive. It's showtime." Gus and Sal immediately put down their nail guns and stood at parade rest on either side of me, flanking the sliding glass door. They looked like two construction worker chic Secret Service agents. Gus even folded his arms. The reporter, a woman named Trish, bounded up. "Hi," she chirped. "Trish Tanaka, Channel 5 News. Are you Frank?" She said my name like it was a complex foreign concept. "I am," I said, trying to look thoughtfully existential. "And this is my communications team, Gus and Sal." "Yo," said Gus. "Hollow moon," Sal muttered. Trish, to her credit, didn't even blink. "So, sir, we got a tip about your lawn. What is the message here? Is this a protest against the HOA?" I held up a hand. "Trish, I wouldn't call it a protest. I'd call it an acceptance, an embrace. Look," I said, pointing dramatically at nothing. "The other candidates, if you will, they're promising to fix the roads. They're promising to lower taxes. They're promising incremental change." I paced the deck. Gus nodded, sagely. "My preference is for a candidate who is promising to fix everything. The economy, the deficit, that weird pothole at the end of the street. My candidate is promising to fix it all, permanently." Trish's smile was frozen, but her eyes were twinkling. She knew this was gold. "So, you're campaigning for an asteroid to hit the Earth?" "I'm not campaigning, Trish. I'm informing. I'm a thought leader. I'm just trying to get on the right side of history, or, the end of it. It's the ultimate fresh start, the great reset, and I, for one, am just trying to get my neighbors to look up." The cameraman panned over to Gus. You agree with this?" Trish asked. Gus unfolded his arms. "He's got a point. My back's been killing me for 20 years. You know what'll fix it? A total catastrophic atmospheric entry-level adjustment. I'm with Frank. I'm a meteorite." Trish Tanaka looked like she had just won the local news lottery. The segment aired at 6 p.m. My phone, which had been quiet, joined Sarah's in its vibrating off-the-table dance. My consulting business email, which I hadn't checked in days, had 200 new messages. Apparently there are a lot of meteorites out there. Brenda, of course, was not one of them. The Channel 5 interview was, for her, the final straw. She had been mocked. Publicly. On the local news in the next morning, the certified letter arrived. It wasn't a friendly neighborhood reminder. It was a thick, creamy envelope with the HOA's official, embossed logo of a single beige oak tree on it. I signed for it. I opened it. Sarah was watching me nervously. "Well," she said. I read it. "Well, the good news is, I think she's finally taking us seriously." "And the bad news?" "The bad news is," I said, pulling out the invoice, "we have been fined." "Fined? For what?" "Let's see. I'm being fined $500 for 50 instances of unapproved signage, at $10 per sign. That's creative math. $500! Frank!" "Wait," I said. "There's more. Page 2. I flipped the page. Oh, this is beautiful. She's also fining us an additional $500 for, and I quote, "community nuisance, existential dread." Sarah just stared at me. "Existential dread? Frank?" "That's what it says. She's fining me for a state of being. Can she do that? Is that legal? I feel like existential dread is my right as an American." "Frank," Sarah said, her voice dangerously low, "take the signs down now. We are not paying $1,000 for your astrophysics joke." But existential dread. Now." And she was right. I'd lost. $1,000 I'd pushed the joke too far. Brenda, with her beige, bureaucratic water torture, had won. Defeated, I walked outside. Gus and Sal were just arriving. "Morning, Mr. President," Gus said. "Saw you on the news. You looked good. Very statesmanlike." "It's over, guys," I said. My shoulders slumped. I held up the letter. "She got me. $1,000 fine. Existential dread. I have to take them down." Gus and Sal looked heartbroken. "No, Frank," Sal said, his voice quiet. "You can't." What about the movement?" "The movement can't afford $1,000 fine, Sal. Sarah's gonna kill me." I walked out onto the lawn, my battlefield, and I grabbed the first sign, the one by the mailbox. I pulled, and the swing was sad. A sound of defeat. I pulled 2. I pulled 3. I pulled all 50. I stacked them in the garage, a sad, black pile of failed protest. My lawn looked naked. Boring. Beige. I went back inside. I sat on the couch. I was depressed. Brenda's SUV did a slow, triumphant drive-by at 11 a.m. I could feel her smirking from inside the tinted glass. I sulked for the rest of the day. Sarah was trying to be nice, which almost made it worse. "See?" she said, patting my shoulder. "It's fine. It's over. We'll pay the fine. We'll go to Applebee's. It'll be normal." Normal. The word hung in the air like a threat. I went to my office. I stared at the letter. I read the bylaw again and again. Bylaw 74C. All yard signage is henceforth prohibited. I read it 10 times. Signage, sign age, a physical plastic coroplast sign. "Frank?" Sarah called from the kitchen. "I'm ordering pizza. You want your weird no cheese on one side thing?" I didn't answer. I was on Amazon. Frank? Honey, I yelled. They got me on signage. Yes, Frank, she called back, exasperated. We know. That's what we're paying the $1,000 for. The signs. No, I yelled, clicking, buy now, same day delivery. You don't understand. They banned signs. I am aware of that. But, honey, I said, a slow, dangerous, beautiful smile spreading across my face. They never said anything about light. A long silence from the kitchen. Frank, what did you just buy now? The box arrived at 8 p.m. It was a 4K ultra-high lumen outdoor projector. I waited. I waited until 10 p.m., until the street was dark, until Brenda's victory was complete. Frank, Sarah warned as I carried it outside. Don't. Please don't. It's not a sign, honey, I said, plugging it into the outdoor outlet I installed that Brenda said was non-compliant. It's digital media. It's art. It's an installation. I aimed it at the biggest, flattest, most beautiful canvas I had. The side of my own house, the entire side. The 2-story, beige, stucco side that faces Brenda's living room. I powered it up. I connected my laptop. I had spent the afternoon sulking, but what I was really doing was learning basic animation. Brenda, I'm sure, was in her living room, sipping a thin-lipped, triumphant glass of room-temperature Chardonnay, watching her beige-colored television. And then, her entire living room must have lit up, because projected onto the side of my house, in 50-foot-high, rotating 3D, fiery orange and red letters, was the giant Meteor 2028 logo. It was glorious. It was bigger. It was animated. The meteor wasn't just coming, it was rotating. It was pulsing. Oh my God, Frank, Sarah whispered, coming outside. That's brighter than I expected. Wait, I said. I'm not done. I clicked a button, and from the Bluetooth speaker I'd hidden in the unapproved ornamental shrub at a reasonable but very much audible volume, the triumphant, synthesized horn intro of The Final Countdown blasted into the night. Dun 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 dun. The neighborhood text chain didn't just vibrate, it combusted. My phone, Sarah's phone, it sounded like a beehive, was spontaneously generating in our kitchen. You a monster! Sarah shrieked. But she was laughing so hard she was doubled over. An absolute petty monster! The Final Countdown? Are you insane? It's a classic, honey, I yelled over the music. It's got drive. It's got temporal significance. A car screeched down the street. It was the squad car. Taggart and Blevins. They pulled up. Taggart got out. He looked at the 50-foot, rotating, pulsing, giant meteor logo. He heard The Final Countdown. He looked at me, standing on my lawn like a mad conductor, my New Balances tapping to the beat. He didn't say a word. He just slowly shook his head. He gave me a wave. A little, I give up wave. He got back in his car, and he drove off. He waved! I screamed. He waved, Sarah! That's implied consent! That is not what that means, Frank! The projector, the music, the sheer, unmitigated gall of it, this, it turned out, was a bridge too far. This was no longer a civil matter. This was, in Brenda's words, a declaration of war. I received another certified letter. This one wasn't a fine. It was a summons. Emergency community-wide meeting. The Frank problem. They'd called an emergency meeting at the community center. Thursday night, 7 p.m. Attendance is mandatory for a discussion of recent disturbances. The Frank problem, I said to Sarah, holding the letter. I'm not even Frank anymore. I'm the Frank problem. I've become an abstract concept. You're an abstract something, Sarah said, rubbing her temples. Are we going? Going? Honey, I'm the guest of honor. I'm the keynote apocalyptist. Of course I'm going. Okay, she said, putting on her coat. But just Frank. Please, just try not to be you for like 2 hours. Can you do that? For me? For our property values? I am the soul of discretion, I said. She just sighed and left for work. Thursday night came. The community center rec room was a place where joy went to die. It smelled like stale coffee, industrial-strength floor wax, and regret. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting a sallow, sickly glow on the cheap linoleum floors and the 20-odd residents sitting in metal folding chairs. The air was thick. You could cut the tension with one of Brenda's beige-colored paint swatches. The room was, I noted, divided. On the right sat the Beige Brigade, Brenda's loyalists, people who ironed their jeans, people who actually used the comments box on their HOA dues. On the left sat my people, the meteorites. Bob, the owl guy, was there. He gave me a subtle rock-on fist. Connie, from the Death Cult text, was there, but she was smiling? And to my absolute shock, Gus and Sal. Guys? I whispered, walking over. What are you? You don't live here. We're essential personnel, Gus whispered back, not looking at me. We're your deck/security detail. We live here now, basically. Don't worry, we're on your side. Hollow moon, Sal added, nodding at a beige-clad woman who recoiled in horror. I took a seat in the back. Sarah sat next to me, clutching her purse like a life raft. At 7:05 p.m., Brenda strode to the front. She was at a podium. A podium. She had a laptop. She had a PowerPoint presentation. The first slide just said, Aesthetic, Integrity, Harmony. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice a nasal drone of authority. We are here tonight to discuss a serious threat to our community. She clicked to the next slide. It was a picture of my lawn, with the 50 signs. Exhibit A, the slide read. This circus, she spat, was the beginning. A blatant, childish mockery of Bylaw 74C. She clicked again. Oh no, it was a video. It was a video of my projector show, filmed badly on her phone. You could hear her in the background, breathing, and you could hear the final countdown. Exhibit B, the light and noise nuisance. This, she said, her voice trembling with rage, has made us a laughingstock. Channel 5 News, TikTok. People are driving here from other towns to see it, to take pictures. It has, and here her voice cracked, lowered our property values. A gasp went up from the Beige Brigade. Lowered property values. The ultimate sin. Frank, she said, her eyes scanning the crowd, landing on me, has mocked the very fabric of our community guidelines. He has... She was, I realized, enjoying this. This was her Nuremberg rally. She went on for 10 minutes. Guidelines. Integrity. Beige. Finally, she finished. She was breathing hard. Well, Frank, she said, her voice dripping with triumphant venom. The floor is yours. What do you have to say for yourself?" The whole room turned to me, 20 or so faces. Sarah's hand gripped my arm. "Frank," she whispered, "don't." I stood up. I walked slowly to the front. I didn't go to the podium. I just stood in the middle of the linoleum, under a flickering light. The room was silent. "Well, Brenda," I started, my voice echoing a little. "First, I'd like to thank you." That threw her. Her angry face faltered. "What? No, really," I said. "I'm serious. I'd like to thank you. For years I've lived here. I've paid my dues. I've power-washed my driveway. I shuddered. I've considered beige. I did my part. But I never felt involved, you know? I just lived here." I started pacing. Just a little. "Then you sent that email. 74C. You banned politics. You thought you could ban ideas. You thought you could just delete any opinion that didn't match the new, approved Chestnut Creek taupe." I looked at the Beige Brigade. They were listening. "You know what's political, Brenda? It's not just signs. It's telling people what color they have to paint their mailbox. It's measuring lawn height with a ruler." A murmur from the back. "It's," I continued, my voice rising, "fining a guy $1,000 because his existence is an existential nuisance." I held up the fine. The letter. "You wanted to ban political signs?" I said, my voice quiet again. "Fine, I get it. Bob, Jerry, the inflatable owl it was a lot. I'll give you that." Bob had the good grace to look embarrassed. "So I put up a sign for the most apolitical thing in the universe, an equal opportunity destroyer, a nonpartisan ball of rock and ice that will, I promise, preserve community harmony by making all of our lawns exactly the same level." A snicker. From the back, I turned to Brenda. "This isn't about a meteor, Brenda. It's not about signs. It's not about the final countdown, which, by the way, is a banger. It's about this," Achaye said, gesturing to the PowerPoint. "It's about Exhibit A. It's about the Frank problem. It's about you deciding, from your beige throne, what harmony is, what integrity is, what ethnic is for a garden gnome." And then the dam broke. Bob stood up. "He's got a point. My gnome isn't ethnic, Brenda. It was a gift from my sister in Tucson, and I like it." "Yeah." A woman I'd never seen before, from the meteorite side, stood up. "And my basketball hoop is not an architectural eyesore. My kids play with it. And my deck isn't a fire hazard, it's pressure-treated pine," Gus roared, standing up, his face purple. Suddenly, it was chaos. The meteorites were on their feet. The Beige Brigade looked terrified. People were shouting. "My wind chimes. My non-compliant rose bushes. My suspiciously parked minivan." It was beautiful. Gus and Sal, I swear to God, started a chant. "Me Tior, me Tior, me Tior." Brenda was banging a non-existent gavel. "Order, order, this is not order." "Motion," Bob yelled over the din. I make a motion to dissolve bylaw 74C, the Beige Edict." "Second," shouted the basketball hoop lady. "All in favor," Bob yelled. A roar of "Aye" from almost the whole room. Even Connie from the Death Cult text raised her hand. "All opposed!" Brenda's hand shot up. "Nay!" she shrieked. She was alone. Her Beige Brigade, they abstained. They just looked at their beige-colored shoes. The motion passed. Overwhelmingly. Brenda, for the first and possibly last time in her life, was speechless. Her mouth opened. Her PowerPoint of tyranny was still on Exhibit B. She just deflated. The chant had changed. "Frank! Frank! Frank! Frank!" I had won? I'm not a public victory kind of guy. I'm a slink out the back while everyone is still shouting kind of guy. So while Gus and Sal were leading a conga line of meteorites, and while Bob was cornering Brenda about the legal definition of gnome, I grabbed Sarah's hand. "Let's go," I whispered. "Frank," she said, and her eyes were shining. That was amazing. I think I just accidentally started a revolution?" "You just accidentally something," she said, and she was smiling. That real smile. We snuck out. We walked home. The night air was cool. We just held hands. We didn't even talk. When we got home, the giant, rotating meteor was still on the side of the house. The final countdown was still playing, softly on a loop. I turned it off. It felt wrong. Now. Like the joke was over. We just sat on the new, beautifully finished deck. Gus and Sal had finished it. While I was at work, they'd even put solar lights on the railings. I sat there, on my new, non-compliant deck, for a long time. The next morning, Gus and Sal's truck pulled up, but they weren't unloading tools. They were packing up. I walked out with my coffee. "Guys," I said, You're done." She's all done, Frank," Gus said. He looked emotional. The campaign office is finished." I don't know what to say, guys," I said. It's beautiful. You didn't have to finish it." We're meteorites, Frank," Sal said, his voice thick. We finished the job." "Always," Gus nodded. I went inside. I got my checkbook. I paid them. Gus looked at the check. "Frank, this is too much." "It's hazard pay," I said. For existential combat." Gus, he tore up the check. "No," he said. We can't." But Sal did redo the invoice. He handed me a new invoice. It was the same original quote, but at the bottom there was a line item, a deduction. $1,000, campaign security, existential dread discount. I looked at them. "So you're not running?" Sal asked, his voice small. Cause my cousin, the Hollow Moon guy, he wants to be your VP." I'm retired, Sal," I said, my voice hoarse. It's time to let the actual apocalypse take the wheel." They nodded. They got it. They got in their truck. They drove away. I waved. I sat on my deck. My new deck. I sat there all day. That evening, Sarah, she came out with 2 beers. She handed one to me. We sat there, in silence. The lawn was clean. The projector was put away. It was quiet. Normal. You're an idiot, Frank," she said softly. I know," I said. You're also," she said, taking a sip. And I can't believe I'm saying this. You're the new HOA president." I spit my beer, all over my new deck. "What?" "Yep," she said, taking another sip, not looking at me. After you left. After Gus and Sal led the conga line out. They held an emergency, no confidence vote. Brenda lost. Bob nominated you. In absentia, it passed unanimously. I just stared out at the neighborhood, my neighborhood. I saw Brenda's house. Her curtains were drawn. President? Me? President of the Glens at Chestnut Creek? The irony, it wasn't ironic. It was cosmic. It was astronomical. It was existential dread. Sarah nudged me. So, she smiled, into her beer. What's your first act, Mr. President? What's President Frank's new platform? I looked out. I looked at my beige house. I looked at my beige mailbox. I looked at the perfectly, uniformly beige neighborhood. A slow smile. A new smile. A dangerous smile. It spread across my face. Honey, I said, turning to her. What do you think of magenta?